Community activist Anastasia Ketchen is helping students across Greater Charleston do a new program called My Up Program. I speak exclusively with Anastasia for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Anastasia Ketchen, it's so good to see you again.
You too, thank you for having me.
Yes, back here on Quintin's Close-Ups. This time you're here because obviously you have a new program. It's called My Up Program, Unlocking Potential in You.com. Our recent visit with Mama C's current installation collaboration with We Are Their Voices and Moms Demand Action in the Wear Orange Weekend events and our current intake for 2019-2020. Why this program, why now?
Well, UP is actually something I've been developing for a while, and I've been doing things in the community, but we're really pushing forth. I've actually had 2 youth cohorts now within the last couple of years. I'm really excited. We've done a mural at New Israel Christian School. We just went on a trip to New York and New Jersey. We took a few students, and they got to learn a lot of history. And it's very important because this year we're doing this big push to address the issues of gun violence. There's an extreme increase in the last year. We're using the power of art within our communities to heal. And we're targeting our youth and their families. So our youth decided, I have a production called I Heard Chicago Crying Outcry. It'll be on stage at Burke Auditorium October 26th. And what we wanted to do is redress the issue of gun violence. Is our students decided, you know what, let's talk about the things that are close to home that's adding to the increase of the gun violence. So gentrification, school to prison pipeline, poverty, which is just at a height here in Charleston, as we see all these developers coming in, all these changes, and the recent government shutdown, and housing, how it impacted housing, and all these different programs. And it really touched my heart. So I've been focusing really hard with our youth, and really decided to push towards the addressing gun violence because it stresses so many other issues that are here in Charleston.
What are those other issues in Charleston right now in your mind?
So right now, our biggest thing is gentrification. And, you know, to be honest with you, there's so many that can be listed, but what we are finding is there's so much healing to be done in our community, so much that still has yet to be unearthed. There's a lot of people that are almost like, it's like this walking zombie effect where so many people, we hear about it, we talk about it, we know what's happening, and we deal with things like the prejudices we may still face here, the obvious healing that still needs to take place, mental slavery that still is existing here and hard on our community, but yet the community puts on this facade that we're just a huge tourist attraction and we hold hands and sing kumbaya and nothing's wrong. So as a result, though, we're seeing things like the school to prison pipeline having a larger effect in our communities. Gentrification pushing our students out, taking over our schools, and our Black communities being pushed to North Charleston. To be honest with you, as you see this gun violence increase, when you go and if you were to speak to the individuals involved in this gun violence and say, where are you from? Who your people be? Guess what? They're not from North Charleston. They're not all from North Charleston. They've been forced there because of gentrification. So you got individuals that might have had a neighborhood gang in Mount Pleasant and Somerville and, you know, downtown, and now they're all living in North Charleston, going to the same schools in the same areas, and they all got beef. And now we see an increase of group gangs where, no, I don't want to say gangs, but you're seeing these not only gun violence, but, you know, just a couple weeks ago, we had a young girl who was 14 years old, a middle school decided to jump her, and I'm sure there was issues on both sides, but there's so much of a rise of just violence, and it's just being accepted in our communities, and that's a problem.
You talk about it being a problem. How did we get here?
To be honest, this goes back way before even us, I really do feel. And I feel like what has really defeated us is those self-defeating prophecies that we're taught at home. What goes on in my house, stay in my house, or that's just the way it is. And because of those things being taught to us and we're our children and we continue to pass it on and it goes from generation to generation, we're silent in a way. I still feel like there's a lot of stuff from slavery that has never been addressed that needs to be, and a lot of people that need to be healed, and a lot of people to stop bowing their heads and accepting that what's happening in Charleston, what's happening in our world is okay. Let's just keep on moving. As long as you don't talk about it, or leave it alone, mind your business, it don't bother you. It is bothering us.
Art, is that the only way to heal these problems and heal this community?
No, but it's a start. It's a way to get out those things that we may not have a way to put into words. You know, one of the things, honestly, if you look at, especially in our young, like, individuals, our young individuals of color, we, even just historically, when you look at how we transcribe our history, you see art. You see things not written in words per se, but you see it displayed in a painting, in a drawing, in a song, in a dance. And, well, when you look at our schools right now, part of the strategic plan is to remove those programs out of the school. Creative and performing arts is coming to a minimum. You can only get into it if you go to the School of the Arts, right? So why not bring that to the streets and to our populations that really need it? Why not take those children that are so busy that nobody wants to deal with because they're too angry and they're fighting, or they talk back and they're disrespectful, and or maybe they just don't know where to place all their emotions, and put it into something? Why don't we redirect that energy and allow them to express themselves? Our adults too, because this isn't just for our children. We work with our families directly. Like, our families have to have some type of contact, because to be honest, I can do whatever I want and work as hard as I want to with the young people, but if we don't reach their families somehow and involve them, then it defeats the purpose of what we're doing.
I got two questions. How do you help heal an adult's pain versus how do you help heal a child's pain right now?
A lot of times, well, we've been training and learning how to do a lot of things like restorative justice. We've been working on story circles, giving people opportunity to be heard and to listen, because just like you and I are having a conversation right now, and you're being an active listener, not everybody knows how to do that. We spend our time talking at each other, yelling at each other, because that's how many people communicate, especially if we've been raised that way. And, you know, a child should be seen and not heard. You know, that's what we're programmed to do. So we scream at each other because you want to be heard. So we create a setting where we allow people to equally share their voice. We sit in a circle, we have a story circle, we talk about it. We get real and share the issues that need to be addressed, and then find ways to help people express those emotions. And not only do we sit here, we don't just paint. You know, we paint with a purpose. We want to make sure that as we do this production, we address issues, we put it in people's faces, but we let them know these are things that need to be addressed. We have some healing to do. What is the root causes of this? We put that all out in our artwork. And then as a community, we come together and decide, well, what are some steps we're going to take individually to try to begin our healing process? What can I change so that I can help my community change?
You talked earlier about transcribing history, and obviously you just talked about gentrification and gun violence and whatnot. How do you transcribe history 5, 10, 15 years from now?
As in, what do I see it as?
Yes, ma'am.
Honestly, on the path that we're going in, I see communities being divided again. Almost, I fear, going back to segregation. There's some benefit. Now, don't get me wrong, because one of the things about segregation is that when we desegregated, we also lost ourselves and our community separated more. But I feel like the powers to be are going to continue to strengthen their power. Money is going to continue to run our lives. And if we don't make some changes right now, 10 to 15 years later, I think a mass amount of our population, with our people of color and every sex, will be incarcerated or dead.
I was talking with Althea White, who's running for North Charleston City Council, earlier today, and we actually have a phone conversation on Sunday about gentrification. And one of the things she wanted to do is, and who knows if this is actually possible for some people, but how do you slow down gentrification?
Well, one thing that we can do within our families is when our family, well, first off, we got to get back to a family being a family. And when there's a death in the family and we have to deal with land, we got to decide as a family that even if there's pain in that land, it's important for us to keep the land that we have. Because if we don't own land, you know, I've seen it in my family, it creates a lot of division. But when we let that land go, somebody else sees the benefits in it and they take advantage of it. They come and they take it, they increase the property value, and therefore, if we want to get back to it, we can't afford it. So one step is to hold on to what we got. We gotta hold on to it. We gotta, as a community, decide, just like we see churches and corporate organizations purchasing groups and all this property around here. That's something we gotta do as a community. You know, look into land trusts, inform yourselves. I'm learning myself now. I'm trying to get educated on what we can do. You know, can we form a neighborhood coalition? What can we do? What's the benefits of it? And getting these land grants and really investing in ourselves in the community and purchasing this property so that our children have some place to go to.
What else have you been able to learn throughout this process?
I'll be honest, one thing is, our children got a lot to say. One of the things that I have learned is that they have powerful voices that need to be heard. And our children, even my 6-year-old, I tell you, like, the things that come out of her mouth, sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, is this the voice of God? Like, it blows my mind. It really makes me stop and think. But they're very observant, and they feel things that we've forgotten to feel or don't know how to express, or we ignore or push down. But I've learned to listen to our children. They've got something to say. They need to be heard. And they, especially this present generation, I think they're our answer. And we need to pour into them and invest in them. Spend more time with our children than we do, just trying to make our money to survive and give it away. Invest in our children. Go back to teaching our children, not just the schools, because there's a lot that's missing, but our children need us, they want us, they need structure, and we got to provide it.
I want to go back to what you said on your website. It says this, what we do. We are a grassroots community organization, that is, working through the Greater Charleston area. We partner with organizations such as PATH, Public Arts for Health and Accessibility, on projects including local murals that help inspire and influence communities. When you look around Greater Charleston, what else do we need healing from?
There's a huge division. Once upon a time, you ever had a conversation with your elders, especially your grands, and they would pass on their wisdom? That conversation is stopped. And something along the lines divided our communities. And that generational communication, a direct line of history, that foundation that we really need, was broken. So I feel like we need to get back to the context of that conversation. We need to get the wisdom from our elders. We need to be able to talk as a community and unite, because we can point fingers all day. We can blame others from the outside in, but if we don't heal from the inside out in our communities and start really communicating with each other, start being respectful. I mean, I walk down the street and some of these children say things that, whoo, man, make you jump out of your skin. There's a lot of disrespect. But I think a lot of that too is because there's a lack of confidence individually. I feel like we've got to really build up our confidence, our self-esteem, our sense of self, our pride, and learn who we are, because we're more than slaves. There's far more to our history than just that. But we've got to rebuild ourselves so that we can really support each other more.
And you talked earlier about obviously some of the kids being, disrespectful when they walk past you.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go to this. It says this: our vision is to strengthen and develop the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual characteristics, that is, of individuals, while training them to be inspirational leaders to the use of creative and performing arts, science education, community service, financial planning, life skills, and team building activities. What are some of the characteristics have you seen in the kids that you've been able to work around with?
Well, it's interesting because especially most of my students have been between the ages of 12 and 17. So of course they're at that age where they're shifting and trying to figure out who they are. So I'm dealing with these angry little people who feel like they know the world, but yet they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders too. And I have no clue, there's no connection with me. So I see a lot of anger. But at the same time, when you get past that, I see very strong individuals. I see a lot of them who are very creative, passionate, they have compassion for others, they're visionaries, they are, in a sense, superheroes in the community. A lot of them are powerful motivational speakers, and they just don't realize it. They have such influence on each other and their peers that when you redirect it and show them how to use that, they become those inspirational leaders that we need in our community.
You talk about people, obviously the kids may be potential inspirational speakers. And I want to go back to what you just sent me on your Facebook message a couple of hours ago. It says, My Up Program, Unlocking Potential in You. How did you unlock your potential?
To be honest, I dealt with a lot of pain throughout my life. I've dealt with so many different levels of abuse. But I tell a lot of people about my story as a wilderness counselor. And after college, I went off, like most people, I ran away from home. Is where I never come back, and here I am. But when I became a wilderness counselor, I realized I was running away from myself, but I kept ending up in relationships, whether they were with a partner or a friend, that was putting me back in the same things, facing the same demons that I was trying to run from. So when I became a wilderness counselor, I was working with youth, 12 to 17, most of them considered at-risk youth, and they began my healing process. And that's where I rediscovered birth. I lost my mother at an when I lost my mother at 16 and a half, I used to do a lot of art, but I literally buried my art with my mother and stopped. So when I got here, one of my students in particular, he was there because he liked to tag. He was a graffiti artist. He did so many things illegally, and I decided, well, but he had such beautiful work. Like when you looked at it, it really made you just go, oh, wow. There were some things that he created that made me cry. And he gave me a pen one day and said, hey, Chief, why don't you draw me? And I was like, oh man, I haven't done it in a long time. I can't do that anymore. He said, try. And they were insistent on it, so we did it. Then after that, I started painting. And then one day we were joking around and we started dancing. I was like, oh yeah, believe it or not, I could pop my lock, you know. And we were dancing and having a good old time. And it started my healing process. Art really helped save me. You know, I buried it and then I rediscovered it. I unearthed that and started my healing process then. So the youth helped save me in a sense. I had to heal that child before I can become an adult.
Right. We're right behind this empty blank wall here. But if you could draw on this wall, what would you draw to say to your mother, hey, look at me now?
Well, you know, I talk about my child a lot.
Yeah.
She's a huge inspiration to me.
I'm surprised she's not here today.
I know. Only because she left me and abandoned me to go to the water park.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay. She had a graduation day. I'll let her have that.
Yeah.
But sometimes I literally see my mother through her. So I would probably paint an image where it showed the two of us almost looking at each other, like we're looking at a reflection, and surrounded by a heart. And this beaming light, because I feel like light surrounds us. My mother used to always be referred to as a light, and she used to always tell me about the light that I have. And I would really make sure that those light colors were really reflected and shown so that she knew, Mama didn't turn it off. It's still here. I'm still here. And we're going to make it.
That's so great to hear.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Anastasia Ketchen, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Thank you.
You're welcome anytime.